Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another world building video. This time we're going to talk about magic. I have had, or I created, I should say, a little system. This might help you out, and it doesn't have to be for like your entire world. It can be specific areas, especially if you've got fluctuating magic and you want to show like sort of a strange ebb and flow of magic levels throughout your world, or maybe like I did, and I created this for a universal system where each, like if you're rolling up a world for Traveler and you wanted to know how well magic worked, if at all, on a particular world, I'd break out, of all things, a 30-sided die. And basically is it a 30-sided die? Maybe not. But I digress. Basically, I had it was kind of like the old AD&D armor class system where you had 0 going down to -10 for a really high armor class, whereas 10 would be a really crappy armor class, and 0 would be, in this case, a 0 would be magic works perfectly fine, and the negatives would be a negative percentage in 10% increments. So -10 would be magic does not work at all on your planet, and a -1 would be -10%. +1 would be +10%. So you could have areas where magic works like 10%, 50%, 90% better in this area or this world, all the way down to maybe it's 10% worse or 50% worse, or all the way that magic doesn't work at all on your system or on your planet or what have you, or maybe a country, maybe because you've had some sort of magical worldwide effect that makes some areas better for magic, some areas worse for magic, so that you can have your players always kind of guessing, or they have to do some research and find out, well, magic doesn't work very well over here, but it works really well over here, and maybe it's more magical over here, maybe it's the elves or some such, maybe it's a big metropolis of magic, so everything works really good because they're drawing in magic powers, so it's just over time made this particular area better at magic, or this area is devoid of magic because maybe that's where the apocalypse happened and it just blasted magic out of the area, or that sort of thing, because most games have a set level of magic and how it works on your area. Hold on, I'm going to close the door because family's doing family stuff. I'm going to get ready to go watch the Michael Jackson movie, of all things. Not my cup of tea, but let them have their fun, right? So you could have your magical world, your fantasy world, have different levels of magical effect. Maybe you want to tone it down for a little while. Maybe you want to send them into an area that's more difficult for the party, so their magic items, their spells, etc., are not working at 100% for whatever reason. Maybe it's it's that way for good magic, or it's like Mordor, so all the magic's being drawn to the great big bad guy. He's sucking the magic out of the area. Not quite the way they did it in Dark Sun, where it's worldwide magic is just ruining the world. Or maybe you want to lead up to something like that, and if your players are not careful, they could turn their planet into a Dark Sun type world. Or maybe you want to run like a prequel to Dark Sun, I suppose. But I've used that in the past for different effects in different worlds, different places, and I find that it's a lot of fun when the players enter an area, and it works both ways. It doesn't have to be just the negative, your spells are only at half efficiency. I actually did that to my group a while back. They were in an area where everything was at 50% the normal magic, effects and power and things like that, because it was a challenging area. I also like to throw in my own version of cold iron, which is a substance that is immune to magic, kind of like dark matter or something like that, to where it, within a radius effect or itself, just immune to magic. I got this from way back in the day where I first learned about the concept at the old Unicorn's Lair, where there would be weapons and arrowheads and even poisons that would be, slipped into a magic user's drink, and suddenly he, until he passes the powdered cold iron or whatever, he would be, unable to cast spells. You throw some arrows like that into a wizard or a priest from the orcs. Maybe they hate magic, and they shoot these arrows, and suddenly, your clerics and your wizards, I got an arrow in me, and they try to pull it out, and the arrowhead stays in them, and they can't figure out why their spells aren't working the way they're supposed to. Things like that, because we're trying to build worlds here that are different from everything else, and so why not play with how much magic you're going to allow, or even in, like I said, in some areas where magic is really pumping and working. Maybe it's actually working at plus, let's say, plus 50%, so all their spells are doing more damage and taking less time to cast, and having greater areas effect within this, maybe this sanctioned mages city, that sort of thing, and everybody comes here to buy magic items or get things done, or have spells put on them so they'll last longer, or create magic items that are going to be even more powerful. But then, of course, if you take them into the wrong area, you have to apply the negatives or some such like that, or maybe just start your whole world out at a worldwide deficit. Just because you want to crank up the challenge rating. Maybe use it to explain why some worlds, especially if you're doing a world hopping game, why this particular world, they can get there, which was something I think I did to them. They portaled into a world, but the magic was so diminished that they couldn't leave without getting to a specific location that would actually allow them to get back home. But all their spells were at half efficiency and power, and that makes up a big challenge. And all of the spellcasters and magic users, and even the folks with the magic items, their +3 sword, now it's only a +1 sword, that kind of thing. You drink a potion, and you barely get anything out of it, to amp up the difficulty level, especially when you're running in those high level campaigns where the players are going to be doing, and I should say, going to different places, so that they can't always rely on everything being exactly the way it was back home. Maybe make them long for getting back home even more, because everything here is kind of on a higher difficulty level. But as you're playing these high level campaigns, you have to do things besides just throw more monsters at them and more traps and things like that. Well, you can always do the opposite and turn their abilities down. I know they're not going to like it, but there are many stories. I think there was a great story. I forget who wrote it. I think it was Paul Anderson, maybe. The magic goes away, while in this story, the magic was literally dying, and eventually, it would lead into our era, I think, to where there was virtually no real magic anymore. Funny thing about that story was it had a sword in it. I always remember this sword. It only had one magical power, and that was it never missed. What is that, +20, +10? Something like that in game mechanics, but I'm getting a little off topic. how magic is your world? How much magic do you want? Do you want a lot? Do you want a little? Do you want a way to tone it down mathematically in a game function, so that you can tell your players, it's at this level, it's at that level, and if you're going to do that, it would behoove you and the enjoyment factor of your players to let them know that, hey, this isn't always going to be the case. This is just this area or a temporary thing like that. I'm curious to know what kind of magic level you guys are comfortable with. Do you just go straight by the book? Everything is as is. Do you like to tone it down compared to what's in the book to get a more sword and sorcery kind of feel? Do you just play a different game to do that, to get that effect, or do you have some other way of making your worlds more or less magical, depending on your mood or the setting you're trying to create for your players? Or do you have something else in mind? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll be back later with the second breakfast in about 45 minutes. Hope you guys are having a great week. The weather's gorgeous. Things are looking up. I'll see you guys real soon. And until then, happy trails.